Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4, Existential Side Quests. I'm Jenna.
I'm Kimber.
And today we are going to be talking about the title, What If Your Purpose Isn't Your Career?
Yes.
Taking an astrological approach to that. And we thought we might want to start out with, does life even, is there a purpose? Let's frame that first.
Does life have to have meaning or purpose? Do meaning and purpose mean the same thing?
Yeah.
Do you have an idea, Jenna?
Well, it's funny because that's always one of those age-old, what is the meaning of life? Really trying to be an existential question. But for me, through astrology, through spirituality, I've kind of come to the conclusion that the whole meaning or purpose of life is simply to have a human experience, whatever that looks like for you. Nothing is better or less than a different experience, whether you're a famous actor and paid millions of dollars, or a rock star, or, someone who is, an unhoused person struggling. It's we're all having human experiences, experiencing human emotions, human existence. What do you think, though?
I think life is meaningful, and I would agree that it's the human experience is meaningful, and it's to the meaning is to exist. I think so that would be the purpose, but I feel like meaning and purpose, at least in our society, aren't always seen or defined the same way. There's something of okay, when you think of, oh, I have a meaningful life, or life is meaningful, does it give up the same image as purposeful life or a life with purpose?
That's a really interesting distinction to jam on. Because, when you're my life has so much meaning, I feel like that doesn't imply movement. It doesn't imply interaction. Yeah.
And it's I think that's something we can explore today is does purpose have to have movement? But I think right now the way I think there's this pressure for it to be movement or to be visible.
For sure, especially in our culture. It's, you have to be doing, you have to be building, creating, moving forward in order to be seen as having a good life or
right.
Purpose. Yeah.
And I feel like in astrology, that's why the conversation around purpose goes to the 10th house. It's our most public house. And because we think about career a lot there, and that's why I have beef with the 10th house. Career is cool, career is important, but it's not the only representation of the 10th house activities. But I think we go to career whenever we're thinking about purpose. So I think they're your mission. I love how as evolutionary astrologers, we think about mission, and it's that doesn't always come with a paycheck.
For sure. Yeah. The 9 to 5 versus 5 to 9. What are you really passionate about? And what are you doing just to survive in our society?
Exactly.
And maybe it aligns for you, which would be wonderful and great, but I don't think for everyone. And I don't think that it's a sign that you're not on your right path or you're failing in some way if those two things aren't kind of laced together.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting to think about where do we see purpose in the chart? And traditionally, yes, that people would say, oh, 10th house, there's your purpose, there's your mission, there's the reason you're out in the world. This is what you're doing on a daily basis. But yeah, it's not just limited to the 10th house or 10th house related placements. Where's your Mars? Where's your Capricorn? What do you have in these signs? Where's your, not even Mars, Saturn? Where's your discipline to get things done? I have Mars in the 10th, so that was my own split. But Mars too, it's very action oriented. Because for me, it's in the same way that we say, well, okay, Venus and Mars are relationship planets. No, every planet is a relationship planet. You're showing up with the full scope of your entire psyche and relationship. Can it be the same with purpose? Is every planet a purpose planet?
And I think as evolutionary astrologers, because we are thinking about meaning can be your purpose, it's purpose can live in multiple areas of your chart or through multiple things. I think too, if I'm looking at my purpose doesn't feel as visible, but there are visible components. But I mean, I have a Saturn's in my 4th house with my sun, and your sun can also flow into that. And that makes a lot of sense, why it wouldn't feel all about my career.
100%. I like that you brought up the sun, because we talk about in evolutionary astrology, how do you shine your light into the world? How do
Mhm.
you increase your vitality? That's through your sun. Well, how do a lot of people shine their light into the world? Through building their purpose or through feeling a sense of purpose. So the
Yeah.
sun becomes a major player. I also want to open it up to the comments too.
Yeah.
If you guys have anything to say about purpose or mission, or if you have insights on the meaning of life, please let us know.
Yeah. Do you find, is your purpose part of your career? Do we have a purpose?
Mm,
Or if you have any questions.
yeah, for sure. For sure. So I was thinking on this too, that, the strongest planet theory,
Hmm.
could the strongest planet be kind of a key to what your purpose is? Taking it away from that 10th house, because your strongest planet could be in any house.
I I think that it would be, I don't know if it would be your purpose, but I feel like the strongest planet is almost like, I don't want to say, I don't want to say it's like a secondary rising, but I think it functions in the way that your ascendant does, of like helping you self actualize, or it's like the way you can, like you can really lean into that for expressing your purpose. So
Mm.
my strongest planet's Mercury, and I get a lot of purpose or fulfillment from teaching or reading, like sharing, communication with people, connections. And it can be different careers that connect to that. But that's how my strongest planet expresses. But what about, does that kind of work for you?
I think so. For me, my strongest planet, based on Cosmodynes and the Leela app, is Pluto. And I've definitely, my rising sign is Aries. So like there is some affinity there with the Mars and Pluto and some of the overlap in their energies. But I definitely see how the added depths of kind of like going into those occult areas, the willingness to transform, the willingness to surrender. It's not always about that fight side of things. Like with Mars, it can be way more action oriented. But with Pluto, sometimes it's about not taking action in order to let stuff kind of come to the surface and really, really face that. So yeah, I definitely can see a resonance between rising and strongest planet. But yeah, I might be biased because of the ease with which Mars and Pluto can talk to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, hmm.
What about North Node?
I was just thinking that,
Yeah.
like, I think sometimes our North Node or our Saturn, and I mean, even your Mars is on your midheaven. I think sometimes, I like to say some charts are written in ink, some are written in pencil, where there's like multiple ways you're going. And sometimes it's like, no, it's the same point over and over again. So I was going to ask, like, can we have more than one purpose in this life? And it's like, if your North Node is in a different spot, then your career or your other purposes, like your Saturn, and your Saturn's not connected to it, that still feels like another purpose or reason for being here.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because everybody has a Saturn, and wherever your Saturn is, we know that you're going to benefit from a concentrated amount of energy put into that area of development. Like I love the visual of the seeds where Saturn is being planted a little too deep, like deep below the surface, and you need to nurture them long enough and as disciplined enough so that they can actually start to germinate and sprout into the beautiful garden that can be Saturn.
Right.
Camilla is in the comments saying, I feel like my purpose is truly to live freely and authentically, like without confinements. But I want to make money doing that somehow.
Hmm.
I love that. The eternal quest for the marriage of passion and, productivity money wise.
Yeah. Camille, where are most of your planets in your chart? And then also what planet or what signs on your midheaven?
Mm,
I'm just
that's a wonderful
curious.
question.
Um,
It's interesting to think of what Camille said in regards to the purpose of Uranus in the chart. Like
yeah.
the evolutionary purpose is the goal of that is to become authentically who you really are
Hmm.
and be comfortable with yourself. What do you think?
I'm just thinking about, like, for Camille, purpose, ideally she'll make money from her purpose. And I'm wondering like what kind of connects to the desire. Like for some people, purpose and career can overlap, but
Mhm.
then some people really want the purpose and career to overlap. And I'm wondering like how much of that is like because we genuinely want it, or the pressure from society that we need, our purpose needs to be either profitable, visible, or productive.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's why I was asking specifically around like her chart of just
Like how out there are you willing to go? How out of society's confines are you willing to go in order to dedicate yourself to finding your authentic self and presenting that to the world? And how can you turn that into something lucrative on top of that?
right. And if you can't turn it into something lucrative, is it still going to fulfill you? Like, is it still your purpose?
Camille said Leo, sun and moon, Pisces rising, Sagittarius MC, and an Aquarius North Node. So
That
there,
literally ties in your Uranus.
what's it?
That ties in the Uranus for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And the idea, I really like the Aquarius North Node with that Leo sun and moon. So it's like Aquarius North Node trying to like individuate and find the authentic self. That is
Mhm.
the evolutionary purpose. Aquarius North Node also implying that Leo South Node. So,
Right.
but we're bringing that forward in so many ways because both of the luminaries are in Leo.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no wonder you're trying to pull things together.
Right.
Your chart's already trying to pull things together.
Uh,
That's awesome. And Sagittarius MC. I bet you're trying to do it in a way that, you're kind of expanding into these new realms of what that even looks like, how to even do that.
yeah.
Yeah. That's intense. Thank you for sharing, Camille. And Amy's here too, saying, my Saturn is conjunct my North Node. So it's a no-brainer for me in the 10th house.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, yep, that's what I'm saying. Written in ink.
Yep. Definitely written in ink there. Oh, and Lisa's saying hi too. She's driving, but she's saying hi. It's nice to have such an active chat.
We love that. I do have a question, and I
Mhm.
don't. So like I said, I think career and purpose can overlap, but can your career or productive roles that you hold, public roles, become a substitute for purpose?
Mm, I think so, yeah.
And I'm not like, again, I something that comes to mind is um when I see this a lot, like when people are like, oh, I didn't have a purpose or meaning until I had kids.
Mm,
And it's like that feels very heavy to put on the kid, that like, but it's like, do that can be something meaningful in your life, and like that can be something you're really proud of. But is that like, are you born to be this one thing to this one person?
mm. Wow. Yeah. Especially nowadays in this current time when there's so many varied opportunities, like centuries ago when traveling abroad, that was not a thing. Like,
Right.
yeah, having a job, all of it.
No, because I know a lot of friends of mine who are choosing to be child free, and people will say like, "Well, then what will you do with your life, or what will bring you meaning?" And it's like, can they have meaning before or like or without that?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think too, it's like if it's a career, what if you quit that career? What if that career is no longer an option?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, like unemployment when your job becomes kind of outdated and you have to do
Right.
a giant pivot. Well, I think that brings us back to like astrology is cyclical. We talk about the cycles of the sun, the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the planets. It's like, what if your purpose is cyclical too?
Right.
Like that person who felt once they became a parent, they finally had a purpose. It's like, well, if you became a parent at age 13, you might not have felt the same way. Or, if that never came up for somebody, they could still feel like they have a purpose, whether or
Mhm.
not they had children in their lives. So it's like when we break life into like these chapters, it's like, okay, well, the purpose of parenthood definitely could fit into some of those chapters and fill that necessity of feeling purpose
Right.
for a time. What if you're a parent and you feel that that's your purpose, but then your kids are growing up and they're going off to school and everything, and it's like, okay, well, what are you left with? Who are you now?
And I think that happens a lot of, and I think too, I think it's so important, and like that's why there's a risk in like tying up your identity in another person.
Mm,
And like kind of like that's putting a lot of your experience of life on what this person does, which can either hold them back or put a lot of pressure on them. Or, and it makes me think like even putting it into like a romantic partner, like any person it could be. It's just then it's going to be like this weird dynamic. But I think like growing up, my mom definitely loved being a mom, and she's a Cancer rising, like that, like she's mom, but she also had other things going on in her life. So when we left home, she did not have that crisis or experience of like, well, who am I without my kids here?
mm,
And I think too, even as your kids get older or like they become teenagers, it's like it's supposed to evolve and change. So I like what you were saying about how your purpose should evolve
mm.
or just completely shift.
Yeah, because I think at some points in parenthood journey, I have two teenagers now, so
Mhm.
I know a little bit, but not a ton. But they they require a lot at certain
Right.
stages, particularly when they're tiny. Like there's a lot, especially for, whoever the nurturing parent is in that situation. So there's a lot of giving of yourself, and it can feel like, oh, this is my purpose. But I think confusing purpose with all encompassing thing or
Right.
and or job, it's like anyone who gets really swept up in a very demanding situation. And then the other side of that could be living vicariously through people. Like that could become dangerous. It could become something that's in, like you were just saying, that's prohibiting the growth and the development of that other person because they're kind of living for two people rather than living for
Yeah.
themselves.
Like yeah, because you, especially I could see this with people who put a like are investing a lot in helping other people fulfill their purposes. And it's like
Mm,
maybe sometimes it's like at the expense of their own. And so there is this sense of like you're putting so much into this person's path
yeah.
that but you're still kind of feeling a little empty. And it's like so you are very like you care a lot about what choices this person's making.
I was reading something the other day about therapists who are the top of their field. They're helping their clients. They're doing so much and they're giving great advice. They have this great lens for things. They can really empower their clients to make the changes that they're trying to implement in their lives. But when they start trying to do that for themselves, it does not work. Like it's very dysregulating. They can't show up for themselves in the same way. So the advice, this is kind of a side quest to tell you how this ended, but the advice that was given was to start talking about yourself in the third person, to distance yourself and give yourself a way to kind of step back and see things 2020, see things a little bit clearer. But I like that if you're in something so heavily and so invested in it, like, yeah, it can absolutely be your purpose, but sometimes it could also feel like your purpose. And sometimes you're so close to it and you're not getting time away that you lose track of like, well, I've now made this my entire identity. This is beyond.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's like when your career like or it's your career is like a role and you don't want to forget the why behind your meaning.
Hmm.
And sometimes we can make the role replace it, or we get so tied to this specific role. And it's like, really, there's just multiple pathways or vehicles to express your purpose. I'm thinking like I have Chiron and Leo in the 10th and it's intercepted. And I feel like that was being leaned on because Chiron's the wounded healer when I was a teacher. And I was making sure like I grew up with ADHD. And so I was very sensitive to making sure that my classroom was ADHD friendly or like neurodivergence can be here. But then my purpose didn't end when I stopped teaching or I left the classroom. I never actually stopped teaching. I just teach in different ways. Or it's like my experiences where I haven't felt supported make me a better astrologer. Like there are just, you can see the wounded healer throughout multiple parts of my life.
Mm, yeah, I really like that. Amy was saying It's sometimes difficult to think of all the iterations of why a soul might incarnate for, don't you think? I always think people are here for a big, massive project, but they may only be here just to experience peace or being a mom and having that experience.
Well, yeah, I think it kind of ties back to what you were saying at the beginning. I really like what Amy's saying, and it makes me think of Dungeons and Dragons, but the goal of playing Dungeons and Dragons isn't to win. It's to tell a great story. It's to create meaning. It's like you're on this journey. It's a process.
Mhm.
But some people are like, wait, it's not a game that you're trying to win.
Yeah. I really that's a great lens, and even within the party of players in Dungeons& and
Yeah.
Dragons, each one has their own skills, their own virtues, their own follies, so making space for what that looks like when, in our society, we're like, "Okay, well, you're this, well, are you the best at it? Okay, we'll keep trying," and
Mhm.
maybe there's room for like, well, sometimes people don't need to be the best, sometimes whatever it is that they're doing is more experiential. It's not product based or get achievement based in a
Mhm.
hierarchy sense.
Yeah.
Camille is talking too. She said, "For me, having my kiddos awakened the idea that I'm supposed to live freely, following my intuition, etc. I'm totally a better mom when I'm living life on my own terms."
Yes, I have seen that where I think a lot of people who are become moms and then it's like they find a purpose like outside of their children, but it's almost like they recognize who they are as a person
Yeah.
because people
I
are watching, little people are like watching you now.
I think part of it too is the experience of your children mirroring you
Mm,
and
I can
seeing
totally
yourself
see that.
in them. Yeah. Yeah. I could spend a long time talking about genetic mirroring, but I know for me, when I started seeing pieces of my personality in my kids, I was like, "Oh, like, I can kind of see that in myself, and where did I lose that? Where did I lose that whimsy?
Mhm.
Where did I lose that playfulness? How can I reintroduce that into my life in a way that kind of pushes back against society's narrative on be
Right.
productive, productivity as purpose." Yeah. People are loving your Dungeons and Dragons metaphor.
Oh, thanks.
That was great, Kimber.
I really want to get into it. So,
You're putting it out
but
into
I've
the
been like, yeah, I've been doing a lot of research.
I love that. That's so
Um,
good. It's your
this
new
makes
purpose.
Yeah, no, it's
No,
it's a
just
way
kidding.
to express it. I was gonna say, like, I wonder, thinking back to what Camille was saying, that whenever you have more structure, more responsibilities and commitments, I feel like there's almost like this sign in it of, is this aligned by, I loved my job at one point, or I'm like, can be doing really well at work, but if I don't, it just didn't feel like the way I get purpose from things outside of work. So
Mm,
when I'm overworking, when I'm working 60 hours a week, that is not good for me. And I
mhm,
think you can kind of see like, okay, then work isn't where my purpose is. And it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily, oh, get a new job. It's
mhm,
like, let's restructure our time. Like, what are things that do bring me that sense of fulfillment, and making sure that I'm prioritizing it just as much as something that is giving me a paycheck.
mm. I like that a lot.
And
Yeah.
sometimes your job can just be a job. I think that's important for me to say, of just, and give you the resources to be able to like pursue the things that do feel aligned with like an inner purpose.
Mm. Definitely, definitely. It's funny because when I reflect back on my careers or jobs through the years, my economic purpose, I guess we can call it, I'm like, none of those really felt aligned whenever it wasn't something that I was passionate about. But then I have plenty of friends who it's the opposite. Like they're very fulfilled doing reception at a job, even if that's not really something that they care that much about.
Right. Because maybe their purpose is connection with other people or things like that. It's
Yeah.
not about the job.
Yeah. They're not passionate about insurance claims. They're passionate about connection, like you're saying.
Yeah. I heard someone say, like maybe a decade ago, I don't remember, it must be some famous quote, but it was like, sometimes when you make your passion your job, you're more likely to burn out. And I think about like, I love teaching, but being a public school teacher was very draining and hard to kind of protect other parts of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, it's made me think differently about when, like, we have career days for kids growing up, but it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? And then you actually are that thing, and you're like, wait a minute.
It's not fun anymore. It's draining.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's almost like we should be mindful of keeping our purpose kind of sacred,
Mm-hmm.
like having those boundaries around it so that it can remain special to us.
Yeah.
Randall said, find purpose outside of your purpose, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. And Camille's agreeing. I loved playing volleyball until I played it in college, and then it was a job. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's funny because I talk to a lot of astrologers about this. This is potentially walking a line here, but about how they love astrology and they love diving into charts, but they hate giving readings. Like, it's just not fun. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because
it's like,
I like that too, because that also goes out, like, there's different definitions of an astrologer. There's astrologers who focus on the research, and the astrologers that focus on teaching, and then astrologers that focus on reading.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And some astrologers that do it all, I
Yeah,
guess.
or exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's why when we say career and purpose together, it kind of narrows the expression, or it's like, if it's like, oh, I'm this, then we're kind of stuck in a box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. It's interesting that in our coursework when we were at forest school together,
Yeah.
Steve talked about with Pluto being a way to find your purpose, because one of his like critical questions for Pluto was around how can I find larger transpersonal meaning and purpose in my life. So it's like looking at that deep woundedness as a way to find purpose.
That would be interesting, because because Pluto is that wound, and like, kind of, if you were talking about purpose in like the reading room with like a client, if depending on how much a person's engaged with their Pluto, like in a healthy way, there might be some pushback of like, maybe I don't want that to be my purpose, or like, maybe I don't want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you talk about purpose without creating pressure?
That's such a good question. How do you talk about purpose without creating pressure? I think part of it, at least, is going to be explaining that life is more than just about the purpose. Like,
exactly.
yeah. Balance.
Yeah.
Camille saying her Pluto is in Scorpio. She needs to dive into this more. Well, Camille, your Pluto is in Scorpio, and Pluto right now is in Aquarius. So you're either in your Pluto square or coming up to it sometime in the next 20 years.
20 years. Yeah.
It's a long window.
Do you want to explain what the Pluto square is?
Sure, yeah. So we talk about like certain transits that everybody goes through at roughly the same time. Elliptical orbits aside, but around age 40 to 45, people experience Pluto in the sky moving into a 90-degree aspect to where their Pluto was the day they were born. So that square aspect is often experienced as some deep tension within ourselves. A lot of squares are internally experienced, and what's coming to the surface during that Pluto square is some really deep, it's from your subconscious, not just your unconscious. It's even lower. And it's stuff that prior to that time, you weren't ready to face that yet. You just didn't have it in you. But Pluto is the god of hell. So as much as we're telling you you're ready to face it, you are barely ready. So it's going to potentially be very painful and need lots of coping skills and rest and breaks and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm in my Pluto square right now. So
yes. And it can help, but
speaking from experience.
No, and I think that'll be definitely a Plutonian time for Camille, since she's Aquarius North Node and she has her sun and moon in Leo, so it's like a lot is happening.
She said, "Thanks for scaring me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
No, it's gonna be scary.
My sun is in Leo too, so it's like
And
right after we get that square, we're getting our Leo sun opposition.
And I do want to add a caveat with that of just if you've had other Plutonian triggers before, then you will feel the Pluto square differently, depending
Mhm.
on how you've been working with Pluto up until this point. For like, Pluto would have hit square, conjunction, or opposition every other planet in my chart before I have my Pluto square. So I'm gonna be a pro, hopefully.
A Pluto pro.
Yeah, Pluto pro.
You're going to be taking AP Pluto square.
Right.
Ready for that. Yeah, Camille, don't be scared. It's okay. We're all going to move through it together, all us
Yeah.
millennials. Don't worry. And there's plenty of other planets to worry about too, so make sure you don't focus too much of your astrological purpose on just decoding Pluto,
Yes.
as much as it can be
You were
tempting.
just adding that Saturn, we have a Saturnian purpose, but there's also sometimes it's inner, like psychological depth work
Mm-hmm.
can be a purpose as well.
Definitely. I love thinking about Saturn in terms of purpose, even though it's definitely more classically aligned with purpose and mission being naturally part of the 10th house.
Mm-hmm.
But the Saturn cycles, the 3 Saturn cycles, feel like they very clearly outline the purpose of the first 30 years, the purpose of age 30 to 60, the purpose of 60 and beyond. Like that, like form your identity, dream the dream, figure out what are all the things you could build. What are you actually interested in putting energy into? And then that second Saturn cycle is like, let's do it. Let's align and make that real. So your purpose shifts even within the planet of purpose. It's like your purpose goes from who am I and what do I like to, all right, let's put this into motion and actually build structures around it. And then later, let's help other people come onto this path too.
And I want to add with Saturn, because this is something that's been pretty personal to me, is which the Aquarius in me is like cringe, but I'm going to be open with everybody. But you can't get your purpose. Like sometimes you can be pursuing your purpose and things don't go like you don't have everything in control. Things don't go to plan. Like it's not written. That's like something you learn. And so, and I got a vision for my Saturn and my first Saturn return, and it's about creating a family. But then, I also went through a divorce after that. That doesn't mean I failed my Saturn cycle, right?
Right.
No, it's like, no, me choosing to like leave that because that wasn't authentic because my Saturn's in Aquarius does mean that, okay, now I have another chance to really focus on being like really intentional about what is an authentic family to me, like who is my chosen family and things like that. And so you have these like 29-year cycles, and it's not about getting your perfect vision and not making any like errors or needing to be like, oh, let me turn back around and try this differently. That's not like purpose does not mean perfection, and success, your definition of success can evolve and change.
Very true. And it's almost like the wisdom that you gained through the experience is not negated because you shifted course.
Right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And I think it can be really, sometimes I think, especially that's when we start to identify with certain roles. Like if I was so identified with my role of being a wife or so focused on being like becoming a mother in that moment, I could have stayed in a relationship that was no longer aligned with my authentic self. And it's like, so it's this weird where it's almost like sometimes we're thinking this is our purpose, and that's when we get stuck on this role and we're forgetting what is the underlying why that kind of hold ourselves back or stay in jobs that no longer serve us. Or so
Amy's saying that she found the Uranus opposition worse than the Pluto.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
It doesn't always feel as purposeful.
Yeah, for sure. And Amy, with your North Node conjunct Saturn in the 10th house, and then Saturn co-ruling with Uranus Aquarius, I bet your Uranus is a bit stronger. It has more for you to do. It has a higher itinerary possibly than your Pluto, making it all the more slamming. So, but yeah, neither are light transits, so to speak. Jill's asking, what about people that feel purposeless?
Um, Actually, this connects to something I was going to ask Jill. I'm interested where, like, what planets you have in different houses or what you're thinking. But I was thinking about when we have tricky placements, or what if someone feels like, oh, I have a lot of planets in the 12th house.
Mm.
So, and 12th house can be what's hidden, or it can be spirituality, or we say transcendence. And it's like, well, that's a big word. And so what is my purpose? So what do we say when someone, it's like your purpose isn't really something tangible?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot to wrap your head around when it's like your purpose is learning to surrender. It's like the first thing you need to surrender is the idea that your purpose is anything other than this. No.
Right. And that's exactly what I would say to someone with a 12th house Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
but if, imagine though, it's like that's also a spiritual blockage of, but that might be something that's like take some time to really accept of that your definition of success is going to be different than what other people's, or might have to like release a definition that doesn't serve you.
Also, I've had some of my own work with Ayurveda that had to do with like when people are trying to implement new routines, trying to shift things in their life to further align with where they want to be, to give themselves a sense of purpose. And for whatever reason, it's not happening. They're not able to continue it. And what we talk about in Ayurveda is it's called the sanskara. It's like the bumps below the surface that make it so that the lake has these ripples in it. It's like if you don't deal with whatever it is that's kind of buried under there, you're not going to be able to move forward with your purpose. So if someone really feels that their life is purposeless, I would want to go back to the beginning and say,
Right.
okay, what wounds are you coming in with that maybe were not fully addressed? And it
Right.
might feel like, oh, well, that was 30, 40 years ago. But it's like, well, maybe that is really where we need to go back and start in order for us to move forward now.
I love that.
Yeah. Camille saying, do you think purpose can be tied to a geographical location?
Do you want to share that?
Well, it just immediately brings me to astrocartography.
That's a great question. I just want to say, yeah.
It is a really great question. Because in astrocartography, it's like, the easy way to explain it's the lines of your chart kind of like put onto the globe so you can see where those planets' energies are going to be the strongest for you. So themes around those planets are going to come up very intensely in those places. So in that way, your purpose might actually take I'm not convinced that your purpose actually shifts. It's just the path that you're taking to it is going to be really highlighted by whatever that planet's expression is.
Mm-hmm.
So like for instance, I went to my Mercury line last year just for 2 weeks, but I barely slept. I was getting lots of downloads. I was, writing a ton. I was communicating with my guides. I was having these profound insights. Is that necessarily part of my purpose or my path to have profound insights? Well, not necessarily. But if I was to stay, this was in Greece, if I was to stay in Greece long term, it definitely would start becoming a huge part of how I work towards my purpose, how I move into that.
I can totally see. I feel like so where you live, if you're permanently there, can really affect how your purpose is expressed. I think too, if you have more than one purpose, or I would say like direction you're needing to go in this life, I can feel like the lines that you're living near can bring something into like a stronger expression. I grew up with like like near my Venus and Pluto lines. So, and it made sense. I had a lot of like intense experiences in relationships and learned a lot from those. And that was really helping me. I was choosing vehicles based off of those things to kind of express. And then now I live by my Mercury Saturn lines, and I feel like it's a lot easier for me to focus more on those types of expressions.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
But technically, if your purpose can definitely feel more free flowing in certain locations, can it feel more restricted or unsupported in other locations? Like feeling connected to it.
It reminds me of how people are like, oh, Jupiter, it's this planet of gifts and abundance. But sometimes Jupiter is about loss. It's about the loss that makes room for whatever the big thing is to come in. So moving to those lines that can feel super positive or be super positive, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're propelling you forward in any greater or lesser way. I'm reminded of a friend who's from the UK. She's an astrologer. She might even be listening. She's shy though. So Amy, if you don't want to say anything, don't worry. But we were running her astrocartography when we were together at a conference. And I was like, oh, you have her daughter's father is from Mexico. And I'm like, oh, like your Chiron line is right through Mexico. And she was like, oh, like that was a horrible relationship, a horrible time. But I got this my daughter who gave me so much purpose. It gave me this launching pad to discover the next things about me. It wasn't that her identity really got wrapped up in her daughter, but to be a single mother with a biracial child where she was from in England, it really helped her to understand and kind of, she was taking like an advanced placement class in diversity, in her Uranus presentation, in how she's relating to other people. And it kind of pushed her onto this path of purpose and understanding about who she is and what she values and what she wants to become, that had she not traveled to her Chiron line, maybe she wouldn't have had her beautiful daughter as well as those insights.
Yeah, I love that.
Camille's asking if we do astrocartography readings. I do not.
I do.
You do? Oh, go Kimber.
But only for certain things. But I do know someone who does it for other things, and I would refer you.
Yeah. I've rolled it into readings, but I don't feel comfortable doing a full 60 or 90 on just astrocartography.
Oh no, mine are like 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. I had a client once who was really, really stuck, and she kept telling me her chart was amazing. She kept telling me she felt pulled to the specific area. We did the astrocartography. I was like, that's really near your Jupiter line. And that was like the permission that she needed through the reading. She quit her job, left her apartment, packed up her car, and just like drove.
That's very Jupiter.
It was wild. I was like, oh my God, I love you. You're so cool. Living vicariously through people. I was living vicariously through her. I was like, I wish I could just up and move to my nodes square. So she went there, and even at the border of Canada, they were like, what are you doing? And she was like, why are you visiting here? And she's like, I'm traveling to my Jupiter line. I'm doing some spiritual healing. They were like, what?
I wonder what Jupiter was doing, like transiting Jupiter was doing in her chart at the time, because like that's something I really love in astrocartography, is that sometimes the lines that speak to us change based off of what the moving planets are activating in our chart too. So I think it's always good to really like go into, maybe this is a good time to move here for this time, but you don't need, if it doesn't work out, you don't have to be locked in.
Yeah, for sure. She didn't stay too long. She stayed as long as she felt was needed. But there was some transit now that you're saying.
I want to see like how long she stayed, and if it.
I know I'm gonna have to like go back. This was a couple years ago. I'm gonna have to go back and dig through it. Oh, that's so cool. Amy did mention that during her Uranus opposition, it was a super strong. She left her relationship. So that's definitely, apparently that relationship might not have aligned with who you are authentically. So good on you for moving through that painful time.
All about breaking free.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes we see, because like the midlife crisis time is the Uranus opposition generally. So people talk about, like he left his family and quit his job, and like he seems so like weird and obscure, and like what is this 45-year-old man doing, or 42-year-old man doing, dating a 21-year-old? And it's funny to like bring it back to like, well, instead of the opposition, what's halfway? The square. What wasn't this person doing at age 21? Individuate and be their authentic self that now they're trying to go back in time and do. That's a sloppier presentation of it, and that person probably has even more work to do. But sometimes that breaking free and figuring out who we are at our core is exactly what Uranus is asking us to do. Yeah. And Jill's saying, this makes me want to know where my Jupiter line is. Oh. All right. So Randall, hi Randall, is someone bound to just one purpose? No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Even granted, I have a splash chart, so it's a little bit everywhere. I think even with charts that are concentrated, like big stelliums in just one corner, not a lot everywhere else, I still think that there's more than one purpose there, because there's multiple expressions of the psyche going on at one time.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, like the North Node remedy, like our North Node, we never fully achieve it. So not all can a purpose can you succeed at this purpose? I've done it and it's over.
Mm.
And then there's other purposes that are forever. Or is the purpose not really something like, is there really a final outcome to your purpose?
I don't think you can say like I'm done with my. It's interesting because at the flip side of that is like my 85-year-old aunt who's always like, "Oh, Jenna, I wish I could do those things." And I'm like, "You are here on earth. You can
Mhm.
still do these things. Like it is not too late. It is never too late." But in the same way, your purpose, fulfilling one goal, one thing that felt really aligned with who you are and your purpose, you've kind of, if anything, just leveled up. Like there's another thing calling for you now. You've evolved into this different person who, through achieving a sense of purpose, is now ready for the next lesson, the next step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes me think back to what you were saying with the Saturn return of just, once you've achieved your purpose, then the next step could be being the elder that is now passing on what you've learned or accomplished. Like it's still the same purpose, but now you're in a different phase or mode.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that, the crone years or
Yeah.
the wild old woman years, or man. Purpose is for everyone. I don't want to be exclusive. All right. Camille saying, I just need to know about a specific country. I've never been, but getting pulled heavily and seeing signs everywhere. I'm visiting in March, but already thinking about a whole move. I mean,
Ooh.
yeah. I think you should move there, and I don't even know what we're talking about.
I just love this Leo manifestation of like just wholehearted living. Yeah. I'm
Yes.
excited to see how you feel about it after you go.
And Camille, correct me, Kimber, Leo sun and Leo moon.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Do
Yeah.
it. Follow that whimsy. That's awesome. I'm excited to hear about this. You'll have to come back and tell us, Camille,
Yeah.
how it goes. Oh, yeah. She asked, "What is that in my chart?
What?
What is it in her chart that's giving her that? Like, oh, she's already thinking about moving there."
Ooh.
Did she say Sagittarius midheaven?
Yes, Sagittarius
Yeah.
midheaven. I don't know where Jupiter is, but I think Aquarius North Node is the Aquarius North Node in the 11th house because I could see that too, like this vision. Um,
Hmm.
mhm. But yeah,
Wow.
I think that Leo energy is like living out loud, right? And like bold moves.
And to have both your sun, both luminaries, your sun and your moon in Leo, it's like following that
Uh,
guiding star. That's the key to not only your sanity, but also your happiness.
and Pisces rising too. So like there might be some like intuition, some sort of psychic connection to these places.
She said Aquarius in the 12th.
Mm, also kind of connects to like mysticism. So
That whole like you're seeing signs about it, you're already feeling really pulled about it. I would listen to that. Maybe even talk to it. Be like, "Yeah, I hear you."
yeah.
Practically though, we're waiting till March, but I totally hear you and I'm excited to go, but we got to wait till March. Or do you? Not to be a devil's advocate. Oh. And then Amara is here. She said, I wonder if this is why when I visited Switzerland, I felt the most content I had in a really long time.
All these questions around astrocartography and our lines make me think about also back to purpose, but still separate of like travel is purposeful or meaningful. And sometimes like, and that's the journey, even if you're not moving there or living there or doing work there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep stamping that purpose and career can overlap, but that is not like, I don't even think that's the primary place that our purpose lives. But that I just love thinking about like joy and purpose, like purposeful activities can be connected to things that just feel good for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And the idea of remembering that joy is the blending of that pleasure and happiness with that discipline and the hard work and the heartache that sometimes comes along with whatever it is that is bringing us joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes our jobs can be that, but there's so many other things in the world that also are that yeah. I'm wondering what Amara's astrocartography looks like too now with
Yeah.
this Switzerland. It's interesting because I did my ancestry DNA, which is probably controversial since who knows if they're selling me or whatever. I don't care enough. So I did that and I found out that I have tons of heritage in the UK. I don't know if you can tell by looking at me. And I was like, oh, that's surprising because that wasn't actually what I was told. But when I went to astrocartography, I have nothing through the UK at all. Like it's completely void of lines. And I was kind of a little unsettled by that. I was like, I wanted there to be some awesome planet, like not necessarily Pluto, but like, because that's my strongest planet. That's why I think it's awesome. But like, my sun or like something that like pointed to like, yeah, this is you. And there was nothing. And my husband said to me, he's not really super into astrology. He dabbles, but he said, well, what if that just means you're able to be yourself there?
And I love that. Like there's not pressure there.
Mm-hmm.
I also would be curious if did you see the parans or the latitude lines?
Oh no.
Those, because like every place has lines there. So I'm curious because so it's like the opposite. But seeing
Mm-hmm.
like I noticed some places that I feel called to, they don't have like my Jupiter line's not there, but then the paran for Jupiter and my moon is. So you can see, so it's really cool, but that's what I love. I'm not gonna be a nerd and geek out right now.
No, I love this, Kimber. You're like, this is astrocartography. Yeah. Camille says she's going to need a reading from you. Astro reading pretty quick.
Anytime,
And
Camille.
tomorrow. Oh, that's awesome. This went on many side quests. That's great for
I
us.
know, right?
Folding it back into purpose
Yeah.
now. Yeah. I really do appreciate all these questions and everything.
No,
But
yeah.
I definitely think that we could say we have many purposes and they are represented at the very least by each and every planet in our chart and the goals of those placements and the development of what that looks like. Like even what's a planet we haven't even talked about yet? Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Even someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship, their Venus
Yeah.
has goals. Their Venus wants to develop. Venus is about more than just relationship. It's about harmony, restoring equilibrium. It's about beauty. It's about balance. So finding new ways that more fulfill you in that quest for restoring balance and serenity in your life, that can be a whole part of your purpose.
And the type of people or relationships that will help you reach your purpose or support your purpose. I have a Pisces Venus in the 5th house, maybe not connected to my purpose, but a partnership that I'm going to need someone. Pisces is very magical and ethereal, sensing. And like, I will need a partner that does respect my astrology work, right? Like, it's just, I think that you can kind of tie in every single planet to your different purposes.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. Whether they're very directly or indirectly impact.
Yeah.
Camille saying, if you have to choose one placement to learn about in our charts to help us align with our purposes or purpose, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
I have like 5 answers.
I know. So I was like, I have like 4.
Yeah.
And I think it really depends. I mean, there's certain planets and houses, and specifically the planets that rule those houses I'd look at. But then, if there's certain aspect patterns, like if there's a yod that's like pointing like the finger of God to a specific planet, then that planet might trump what I'm thinking about these other ones. So I don't think I can answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I want to start by saying another Stephen quote. I feel like I'm his publicist right now. He says, 10th house placements do 2 things. One thing well, one thing not well.
Mm-hmm.
Not well, they're not going to show you your purpose. They're not going to show you what to do. The thing they do well, though, is if you develop that planet, your path will naturally start to unfold. So in that way, I want to say, but I don't want to say that. So I'm not going to say that.
I can't commit, but I will say one thing. Whole sign. Jen and I both use Placidus. We both are typically in modern astrology, but I started in traditional, and I still like to look at whole sign sometimes because the midheaven, your 10th house cusp, can be in the 9th, 10th, or 11th house in full sign. And I do like to kind of know that because it's can be really affirming for someone if they know that their midheaven is in the ninth house where learning or like philosophical pathways might be more engaging for them than this outcome driven career oriented path. And then 11th house is really interesting because 11th house placements they get stronger in the second half of life. So there's a lot of people who it's like they might have an 11th house midheaven and they might, what Jill was saying earlier of like, what if life feels purposeless or I feel like I haven't bloomed yet? It's like, I think it can be really helpful to kind of know where that midheaven is, but then I still pull back into my Placidus work. So I'm not a purist, everyone. I believe all types of astrology can work together.
Yes. I love that about you, Kimber. You're the first evolutionary astrologer that I met that was able to synthesize traditional into it. And it was really cool to learn about that from you.
Yeah. I would definitely look at that of just
that's a really good hint right there, especially the midheaven kind of wavering. And I think I'm going to have to say strongest planet. I'm jamming on that. That's going to be my answer because the more I'm sitting here thinking about it, the more I'm like, this is a newer
planet. Your strongest planet?
Yeah. Whatever your strongest planet is, I think that would be if I had to pick just one placement to learn about in your chart to help you define your purpose, it would be what is your strongest planet because that planet has the drive and the depth to it to push you in the correct direction. And remember that strongest planet, it's a formula and there are different views on it. Different people have different formulas, calculations, algorithms for it. I had one astrologer tell me that my strongest planet was my moon. It is my only air placement. What? How is that my? But in thinking about it, it's the apex of like a obsession angle yod, and it's part of my grand cross, and it's in an asteroid stellium. So I was like, okay, there is a lot of power there and wisdom there. And now that I've done a lot of my like Chiron healing, I can see where the moon really is benefiting from that. And a lot of my purpose in my own life definitely blends lunar themes with my strongest planet, Pluto themes.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Camille saying that her Venus is in Leo too. Oh geez, that's a lot of fire. Yeah. You're a fiery person right there. I love Leo energy though. So obviously you're the greatest, right? Is that fair to assess? Jensen also has that Sun, Venus, Leo conjunction, and she has two other placements there too, just like Camille with the moon there too. And it's like this, the jovial buoyancy of that happy childish fire is almost like palpable.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like people are so quick to say that Leo is all about, oh, like you're dramatic, you want to be the center, you want to be the star. And it's like, no, Leo needs practice being put there because ultimately Leo is learning about vulnerability.
Yeah. And I mean, and we're also just forgetting about the creative self-expression aspect of Leo too. Like a lot of artists have Leo energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that they're transmuting and transforming their visions, their message through their art to bring it forward. Like we can't undervalue that. Like that is such a powerful method of communication and of kind of like historical accounting. Like we were just talking about this the other day, Kimber, about how important art is with regards to politics and activism.
I'm going to try and answer the question, and I'm going to say I think you have multiple purposes, but if I was trying to look for your long-term purpose or something you're going to continue working on, I'd probably go with Saturn. Because I think that would feel, because, North Node's a good idea or it feels unfamiliar. So I think Saturn would maybe feel more like resonant if, you know what I mean? But I think too, it really depends on, I would look at something different if I'm looking at like, making money or a profitable purpose. But I think in general, like this is the work of your life is where Saturn is. And it's going to take time, but you can get dignity and self-respect. Like there's this fulfillment that comes from that work. And I think Pluto work can make you feel a little raw, And I would still pull in strongest planet. Here I go. But I still think Saturn's what I would start with and pick. But I'm just like, then you have all these other ways to kind of, as vehicles for how to kind of get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's interesting to think about all the few, but all of the ones that we just suggested. And if you were to look at those in your chart, what is the common story they're telling? Because there probably is a common story.
Right. Yeah.
Between your North Node, your Pluto, your strongest planet, and your Saturn.
And you can get creative with finding certain roles or activities that can kind of fulfill multiple purposes.
That is a really good point. We did have one more question from Camille. It is the top of the hour, but she said, interesting. My 10th is my MC in Sag, or maybe everyone's MC is in the 10th. That depends on your house system. That's what Kimber was talking about.
Everyone's in Placidus houses, everyone's midheaven is their 10th house cusp. In whole sign houses, it can shift between the 9th, 10th, and 11th. But since you're a Pisces rising, then in whole sign, you'd automatically be a Sagittarius. So your Sagittarius midheaven would still be the same. It would be somewhere in the 10th house.
Which doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. To have that reinforcement is like they're agreeing. There's something that whole sign and Placidus are agreeing on.
Right. And it doesn't surprise me that, you know, when she was talking about her Leo energy, I'm interested if there's a trine to that Sagittarius midheaven of like wanting to live out in that Leo, but also turn it into like a occupation.
I wish we could like pull charts up and
right?
Go nuts in here. All right, now we're over time. So thank you, everyone. We so appreciate all the activity and the
thank you.
That was amazing. And just so you all know, next week to celebrate entering Aquarius sun season, our topic is demystifying detriment.
Yes. So sometimes planets are in detriment or fall, and the sun in Aquarius is in detriment. What does that mean?
Yep. We'll explore that and more this time next week. So thank you again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.